Kakadosh Masechet Pesachim Daf 108. If you remember, we were speaking about the entire concept about wine, because we just said on the last line, Gitznam, we learned in the Mishnah later on, Mubet, we're going to see it says Ben HaKosot Alalu, which means in between the first and second cup, or between the second and the third cup of the 4 cups of wine on the night of Pesach, right? Im Ratzah Lishtot Ishteh, you're allowed to drink wine if you wanted to. Ben HaShlishi L'Revi, but between the third one and the fourth one, Lo Yishteh, you should not drink additional wine. Now, V'yeh Amarta Misatzai, to tell me, yeah, if you're going to tell me now, Misatzai, which means that it's going to actually come and satiate, Amayishte, why are you going to drink more wine now? Doesn't make sense. Hakachi lematzah, achila gasa. You're eating the matzah, achila gasa. We don't want you to eat matzah, achila gasa. Ela shmamina migragari. But rather, we learn from here that it's not going to, that wine is gored the teavon and does not make it actually any worse. And therefore, there's no problem. Okay? Then it says, Rav Sheshat, aviyati b'tanit kol mali yoma de pischa. Rav Sheshat, he actually used to do ta'anit every Erev Pesach, right, in order to actually eat it b'teavon. Okay? So it says over here that it wasn't mamash mekabel ta'anit, but rather, you just didn't want to eat in order that you should actually have it. And that's why, by the way, you should know, some people actually do, right? Some people actually, they do this. You know that. Some people actually do. Yeah, they do. They have, or for example, they do the ta'anit bechorot, even though they're not a bechor. And they would do the ta'anit, the full ta'anit. And why are they doing it? Rav Sheshat. So somebody's going to tell you, listen, I want to do ta'anit Erev Pesach. Sure. You say, well, what are you trying to do? You understand? Well, yeah, show off. Everyone does ta'anit bechor. They do see you Masechet. No. It's written. You understand? But this year doesn't apply, right? No, well, this year it all depends. Some people, we actually did bring that down. We said in the halakha that if somebody, let's say a person always fasts every Friday, in order that Friday night he could eat b'teavon. So therefore, this year, if he's a bechor, he's allowed to do it that Friday, and he doesn't have to do it on Thursday. He could do it that Friday, and then it's a 2-for-1. It's also tanit bechorot, and also the regular tanit of every Friday. Yeah? Okay, fine. Next. So Neima. Yeah, we are 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down. So it says over here like this. So it says, right, Neima, why don't we just say, Kasava Rav Sheshat, that Rav Sheshat is actually holding, Samuch lemincha gedolat tznan. That obviously when it says samuch, it does not mean samuch lemincha, which mincha. We didn't know which mincha. So he says, obviously it meant mincha gedolah. Umishum pischahu. So the reason why it's going to be asur is because of the Korban Pesach. You remember we had a safek. When it says samuch, does it mean samuch lemincha gedolah or mincha ktana? If you're going to tell me it's mincha ktana, that you're not supposed to have a meal, it's because you want to eat the matzah on an empty stomach. If it's going to be on mincha gedolah that you're not going to have a meal, listen, if you're going to eat at 1:30, right, by the time it comes 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, you're hungry again. You understand? I mean, you're fine. There's no problem whatsoever. You could eat again. So there, the reason why is because of Korban Pesach. Maybe you're not going to bring it. Maybe you're going to be moshech, and then what's going to happen is that you're going to be nimshach. You're not going to realize you're going to be drawn into something, and you're not going to do the Korban Pesach in the proper time. And therefore, Rav Sheshat holds like this opinion of Rav Oshia and the name of Rabbi Lazar. Right? He says that the Ben Betera used to be machshir a Korban Pesach, that they did the shechita to it in Shachrit on the 14th of Nisan, lishmo, for its purpose, meaning for the purpose of the Korban Pesach, umitzafra zman pischahu. And it comes out that already from the morning time, that's the time which is fitting to do the Korban Pesach. But the entire day is going to be good to do the Korban Pesach. The Savar, because Ben Beter actually says, right, when he's going to come and he's going to say, right, he says that what is the fitting time of Korban Pesach? Ben Arbaim. Right, what does it say in the Pasuk? V'shachatu oto Ben Arbaim. Ben Arbaim means in the afternoon. Okay? So he says, Ben Erev de Tzmol le Erev de right, which means between the Erev of yesterday and the Erev of tonight, was right. So he comes and he says, right, so it comes out that the entire day of the 14th of Nisan, right, should be okay. So now if we're going to actually say that, now we understand why Rav Sheshat didn't want to eat the entire day. Because according to this, he's going to prohibit the entire day during the time when you could bring the Korban Pesach. And according to Rav Sheshat, since he holds like Rav Oshaya in that Ben Betera, it comes out that the entire day of the 14th of Nisan, starting from Alot HaShachar, you're allowed to bring the Korban Pesach. So that's why you're not allowed to eat the entire day. Is that the reason of Rav Sheshet? Meaning like this, usually we say that you could only bring the Korban Pesach after Chatzot. And that's why after Chatzot, that's why you're not allowed to do work. Right? That's the difference between Erev Pesach and every other regular Chag, or every other regular Shabbat. Right? The regular Shabbat or Erev Yom Tov, from the 9 hours or 9.5 hours, depends if you remember we said Samuch or not, but right, from 9.5 hours, which is Mincha Ketana onwards, you're not allowed to work. What about Erev Pesach? Chatzot. Why is it Chatzot? Because the Korban Pesach. But now here, Rav Sheshet, he used to do Ta'anit the entire day. Why was he doing Ta'anit the entire day? It comes out that he was doing Ta'anit the entire day because he held that you're allowed to already start bringing the Korban Pesach from Alot HaShachar, from the morning. So since you're allowed to bring from Alot HaShachar, that's why he used to do Ta'anit from the beginning until the end of the day. Why? To make sure that you're doing the Korban Pesach, you're not going to get drawn into it. But that's the Gemara is going to ask now. Is that really Be'emet, the reasoning of Rav Sheshet? Says the Gemara, Amri, lo. That's not the reasoning of Rav Sheshet. Shane Rav Sheshet was different, the Sinisava, that he was a person that was very, very delicate. Yeah, he was very, very delicate. The time betzah from if he would eat anything in the morning, right? He wouldn't be able to eat at all. That means the second that he ate, that's it. Yeah, some people do that. Some people, they prefer only to have one meal in the day. And that's when they eat, and they eat well. But, yes, special beracha. But, right, some people, they're going to eat in the morning. The second they ate, they say, Gamarnu. The entire rest of the day, they can't eat. Why? They ate. So therefore, the Sheshet was like that. Okay? Huh? Who's a big tzaddik? Well, obviously he's a tzaddik because it's tzaddik, but nothing to do with this. This just has to do with dietary, right? Some people, they're able to eat shalosh seudot every single day, right? And seudot, meleah, beracha. Shlomo melech v'shalom, yeah? And then there's some people that the second that they eat even one, that's it, gamarnu, the rest of the day, they can't eat it.
No. They start one, it's never finished.
No. That's what he's saying here. He's saying the second that he did. What? Yeah.
They start once.
No, 100%.
And the whole day they go once.
Yeah, the two dots. The two dots says, so it comes out that even an ani shebi Yisrael, even a poor person of Israel, he shouldn't eat until he does a seba. Eat what it was stated. Matzah tzarich a seba. Right? Matzah, you need to do a seba for matzah. Right? Why? Because since you're eating it zecher legulat mitzrayim, so therefore you have to eat it b'nechorim. Right? So you're remembering the redemption of Mitzrayim, so you have to eat it like a free man. How do you eat it like a free man? Right? Eseba. That's what it was. Maror en tzarich heseba. Maror does not need heseba. Okay, which means that for maror you do not need to do. Why? Because since the maror was zecher l'shi'abud, right, which is basically the subjugation, so therefore that's why you don't need it, because we don't want to remember it. The maror itself is already bad, so you don't want to start doing it. Why? You're going to do the subjugation and then you're going to be leaning like a free man. It doesn't make sense. Okay. Yain, what about the wine? Right? Itmar mishmed Rav Nachman, it was said in the name of Nachman, right? By some people in his name. Right? Tzarich eseba, that you do need a seba. Itmar mishmed Rav Nachman and tzarich eseba. So basically there's a machlok between the students. Why? Remember, right? Not all the students were very, very meticulous in the words of the rabbi. Sometimes in the middle, they're playing with their phone, right? They're playing with this, they're playing with that. And then what happens is that, yeah, what did the rabbi say? Yeah, the rabbi said this. So what are you talking about? The rabbi said that. And then they start arguing. So they're both saying in Shitat Rav Nachman, what is the Shitat Rav Nachman? By wine. So matzah, there was no machloket by the matzah, right? Maror, there was no machloket. Matzah does need, and the maror does not need. The question is, what about the wine? So some people said the name of Nachman, yes. Some people say the name of Nachman, no. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to say vela plige, but there's no machloket between them. What does that mean? Both sets of students were correct. How could it be? Right? They're saying contradictory statements. So he says, no. Ha betarte kase kamai, ha betarte kase batrai. Right? It all depends which cups. The two first cups or the two last cups. Meaning the first two cups, if you didn't do a seba, you have to drink again. Right? And you have to do it again. The last two cups, you do not need a seba. So amri lahai gisa, ve'amri lahai gisa. What does that mean? Some people explain this, right, in opposite ways. How does that work? Let's see the first explanation. Amri lelai gisa, trekai kamai ba'esiba. So the first two cups, they need a seba. Because this is where you're starting the cherut, which means this is our cherut, our redemption of Mitzrayim. But the two last cups, Lo baya seba. You don't need the seba. Why? My davahava. Because whatever happened already happened, which means already that we already showed and we illustrated our freedom in the first two cups. So now the last two cups, you're not required to do it anymore because they're going to say, we already showed our freedom. We already did it. So we already said chova. So therefore you don't have to do it again. That's the first explanation. Second explanation, adraba, the opposite. The last two cups, for sure you need a seba. Because that was the time when they went out in liberation, which means we drink the last two because that is the entire time of the Sipur of Yitzhak Mitzrayim. Right? The first two cups, lo ba'yaseba, takati avadim ayinu kama. Meaning the first two cups, what are you saying? Avadim ayinu lefaro, we were avadim. So the first two cups, you don't need a seba. The last two cups, you need a seba, because that's the time of the, also when you're drinking the last two cups, right after Afikuman, that's when it happened. You understand? It's by Chatzot's time around. Right? Usually it should be before because the lechatechila is that even the halel should be done before. If you cannot do the halel before chatzot, so at least do the afikomen before chatzot. Right? But still, the concept was chatzot is when we came out. So he's saying the opposite way. The last two cups for sure need heseba. The first two cups don't need heseba. So now says the Gemara, but now you have both shittot. So what are you going to do? So says the Gemara, so that's why you need heseba for all four cups. Why? Because I've got the two different svarot, right? So that's why. So this is what we actually know that all four cups they actually need. Okay. Now, by the way, we're going to learn it. Okay, we're going to see it later on to do it. What about b'diavad if you did not do it, right? What's going to happen? Okay, but fine. So just keep that on the side. Okay. So now it says over here like this: pragdan. What about lying down, whether it is on your back or on your front? So it says in the Gemara, la shemeh seba. It's not considered a seba. So leaning cannot be on the front, on the back. It has to be on the side. Hesebat yamin lo shemeh seba. He says also, if you're going to lean on your right, it's not considered a seba. Why? Because it's very difficult for you to use your right hand in order to eat. Meaning, if you're doing like this and you're eating, very good. There's going to be a question about me. 1 minute. Yeah. So it's going to be very difficult for you to come and start, eating like this and using the right hand is very difficult because when you're putting pressure and you're leaning, it's very difficult then to use the right hand to eat. That's number one.
Use your arm to lean.
Which one? Well, put it this way. You're not allowed to lean in the air. Leaning in the air is not leaning. Leaning in the air is not leaning. Meaning if I do like this, that's not leaning.
Yeah, with the
You
pillow.
have to, well, the pillow has to be on something, which means that you're doing your body and your arm obviously is part of your body, right? So that's what it is. Some people even say that you need to lean your head. Other people say that you don't need to lean the head as long as your body.
You have these rocking chairs, and you just turn the chair and you lean.
I didn't understand. This is a chair. This is a rocking chair.
Rocking chair, yeah.
Yeah, it goes this way and that way.
It spins, with the wheels, right?
Right.
So you turn it to the side and you lean. Go backwards.
But when you're going backwards, the office chair, your back is going backwards. It will never tilt to the side.
So you have to go to the side.
Yeah, for sure. You cannot go backwards. We just said backwards and forwards is nothing. And it has to be on the right. On the left, we're going to see why. Huh? Yeah? Yeah? So he says over here like this. Hasebat yamin is not considered a seba. Velo'od, and not only that, another reason also as well. Right? Ela shemi agdim kaneh leveshet, Rav Yavoli de sakana. Two reasons. First reason is a practical reason. Practical reason is very difficult if I'm leaning like this, right? And then I'm going to come. It doesn't, by the way, it does not have to be on the table. I can lean on the table. I can lean on my friend's. You remember we spoke about that. Can you lean on your friend's, knee, right?
Like
Which one?
or to do, let's say it's here. I could do like this to him also.
Yeah, as long as you're leaning, but it has to be a leaning. Going like this is not leaning.
No, come on,
Even the chabek, remember the leaning should be in a 45-degree angle. Yeah, 45-degree angle. Right, that's what Rabbi Zion says. Okay, so basically it should be a leaning, right? What? Yeah, you're leaning like that. Okay, so then he says over here like this. So what happens is he says, so the first one was a technical reason, logistics. If you're doing like this, it's difficult to eat. Second one, kaneh leveshet. Remember that there's two different types of food pipes in your neck. Yeah? Well, what's dangerous? You need to. Very good. It's dangerous if you're leaning and it's going to be the other way. Why? If you lean to the right, remember that you have the esophagus, right, and the trachea, right, the food pipe and the windpipe. And what happens is that if you're going to lean to the right, maybe the food will go down the windpipe instead of going down the food pipe, and then you have a problem, right? It's dangerous. So because of that, you have to be careful. Isha etzel bala, a woman with her husband, lo baya heseba, she does not need to do heseba. Why does she not have to do heseba? It says over here in the footnote, the reason why is because she's afraid of her husband, vehi kfufalo. So she's subjugated to him. So it's not proper to show any type of form of that she's hierarchy in front of her husband. Are you listening? Right? Which that's why she's ptura from doing heseba. Says the Gemara, v'misha chashuvahi. What happens if she's an important woman? So then tzricha seba. Right? Then she needs heseba. So Maran brings down that all our women are important women. Right? Nowadays, especially, they're all important. You see how they show their serara in front of everybody. Yeah, they show their
International Women's Day.
I was International Women's Day yesterday, so it's very matim into the daf. You're listening? It was International Women's Day yesterday, so it's very apropos to the daf today. Yeah, fine. Yeah, and then it says Ben etzel aviv, a son to the father, by seba. So the son to the father does need to do a seba, which means what's the havamina? Why would you wouldn't do a seba for the same thing? Since the son is subjugated to his father, so how could he start showing in front of his father that he's somebody important? But no, he is obligated to. So the Gemara is going to say, right? Ibai lehu. So the Gemara is going to ask, what about Tamid etzel Rabbo? Meaning a son to the father, right? Yes, right? And that the Gemara said for sure. The question is, what about a student to the rabbi? Do we say that he's obligated or not obligated? Then the same reason, just like we said, the question is that he has here the morah of his rabbi? So is he going to come and he's going to say it just like, is it considered like the wife to the husband and therefore he shouldn't, or the son to the father and therefore he should? So, right? So that's the question. So the Gemara is going to try to poshet the safek. Tashema, Tamar Abaye says, Bemar, right? When we were in the house of Marabir Kedada, right? Zagina Nabir Kedada, we used to lean on the birkaim, right? On the knees of our friends. Okay, that was on our left side. But when we used to leave in the front of the Rav Yosef, and he was a Rosh Shiva, right? Amar Lani told us, Lo tzrichutu. You don't have to lean at all. Why? Mora rabbecha kemora shamayim. The morah of your rabbi is like the morah of Shamayim. And therefore what's happening is, right, and that's what we're actually trying to say, the Gemara above also said, in Kav Bet Amud, that's where we saw it, Hashem Elokei Chatira, the word et is l'rabot tamidei chachamim, you remember? That was the word Shimon and Sani and everything until he said, he thought he was Doresh all the Etim Sheba Torah until he came to the word et Hashem Elokei Chatira. What are you going to add that you have to fear God? Right, et is coming to add. Add who? Who are you going to add? Who could you put on the same category? So until Rabbi Kiva went and he told him, no, there was Yafin the Tarish. Why? Because it said Chachamim. So therefore he comes and he says, from here we actually learn that it comes out something incredible. And by the way, you should know, this just actually shows you majority of, I'm going to say Amei Aratzot, to say it in a nice way, right? They would respect their father more than their rabbi. Here's the Gemara Mefureshet, right? The opposite, which means even if we're going to say that halacha, they're allowed to do the seba in front of their rabbi, even if we're going to say that, the halacha, the Gemara Mefureshet told you, by the son to the father, it was pashut. There was no question, bichlal. But by the Talmid etzel Rabbo, right, there was a question. And the Gemara answered that he told them no. Yeah? Right? Fine. So, Meitve. So we're going to ask now the following question. Why you just said, that means one more time. They had a question, does a student do a seba in front of the rabbi? And what happened is that Rav Yosef said, so when they were in front of Abaye, and that means that they were learning by Rabbah, they used to lean. When they went in front of Rav Yosef, they did not lean. Why? So it was a machloke between Rabbah and Rav Yosef. Remember, the both of them were the Shei Yeshiva, right? I'm still on the bottom of Kuf Chet Amud Aleph, 108A. Meitve, so they're going to ask a question. One second, it says, right, that you could be mesev. And even a talmid by his rabbi, you're allowed to do a seba. So it says the Gemara, Kitanyahi beshuya denagre. He says we're not talking about a student by his rabbi in Torah. We're talking about a student by his rabbi in umanut, in a profession. They used to have an apprentice, right? They used to be basically once upon a time, the way they used to do it, they didn't have university, right? The way they used to do it is, I want to become a carpenter, right? Or I want to become a locksmith. What do? I go to a locksmith and I start doing shimush by him. I start learning from him. And then after learning from him, right, I become a man of the trade and I get to become part of the craft, right? So what happens is that that's the exact same thing That's what we're talking about, a Talmid Etzel Rabo. We're not talking about Talmid Etzel Rabo in Ruchniyut. Talmid Etzel Rabo, a student by his master in Gashmiut, in physical, meaning in a profession. So Ibai Elohu, so now the Gemara is going to ask, okay, fine. So now that we just said that we're not going to find any type of contradiction to what we just said now, what about the Shamash? Is the Shamash going to do it or not? Remember, the Shamash is the one that he's like the waiter. He's the one that's serving you now. So now, does he have to do a Seba or not? So Tashema, we're going to try to bring proof. Tamar Mishum Levi says, Mishum Levi, Hashamash She'achal Kazait. If you have a Shamash Al Yeitze Kazait, Matzah, Kishu Mesev, when he's going to be doing a Seba, Yatza, he's going to be Tzechovah. Mesev in only if he was doing a Seba when he ate the Kazait. Lo Mesev, but if he was not doing a Seba, Lo Yatza, he's not going to be Tzechovah. Shmamina, we learn from here by a Seba, that he does need a Seba. Shmamina, and that's what we actually learn from here, that a Shamash does need to do the Seba. Why? It says over here in the footnote, because the Shamash is not Nichna legamre lerabo, ela kafuf elav rak b'inyanei shimusho shel ishmam niskar, which means a Shamash is different than an Eved or than a Tamid or whoever it is. A Shamash, he only subjugates himself for certain things that he has to do, but not everything. Meaning he's not everything. Meaning, okay, fine, he's going to be the butler, the waiter, whichever one you want to call it. So now he's going to come here, but he's not subjugated to everything. He's not much like a slave. So because of that, he still has to do a Seba. And that's why the Gemara says, if he does a Seba, he's going to be Tzechovah. If he doesn't do a Seba, he's not going to be Tzechovah. Okay? The Amr of Yeshua Levi says of Yeshua Levi also, Nashim chayavo be'arba kosot alalu. Women are obligated in the 4 cups of wine. So, right?
Also, no?
Which of it Ivri?
Also, he chayav be'seba, lo chayav be'seba.
I don't know. Here we're talking about a Shamash. It doesn't mention about the.
I know.
You're just asking in general.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay. So it says, which one? The opposite. He's chayav. He's chayav b'seba. He has to do b'seba. Right? So nashim chayavot be'arba kosot alalu. So women are obligated in the 4 kosot. Says kufchet amubet. Shafen ayu be'otones, because they were in the same miracle. Now remember that there's always going to be a machloket, usually between Rashi and the Tosafot, right? Because look in the Rashi. Rashi says kedamrina b'schar nashim tzedkaniyot shebe'ototo nigalu, that because of the women we were redeemed, right? And it says over here, right, that there's going to be a machloket, right? Because basically, is it because that they were part of the miracle or because they were part of the subjugation? Remember that, right? There, Masechet Megillah, it also says the exact same thing. Meaning, women are obligated in Megillat Esther, women are obligated in the Agadah, women are obligated in Chanukah. But why? Either because they were part of the miracle, right? They were part of the miracle. That means by the Chanukah, Yehudit, she was a miracle. By Ta'anit, by Esther, it was Esther Amalka. By Purim, right? By the Mitzrayim, that means they were the main ones that caused the miracle to happen. They were the ones that were the catalyst in order for us to get out. The other explanation is Afem Ayu Be'otones, that we were saved from the miracles. Meaning, during time of Chanukah, all women will be violated, right? Whether it is if they're going to get married or they were going to do the things, they were violated. So they were saved from that subjugation. By Purim, men, women, and children were going to be destroyed. And even by Mitzrayim, according to that Shita, also the same thing, that they were also subjugated. So therefore, because of that, since they were also part of the miracle that they were delivered, they were liberated from that, that's why there was going to not be a problem. Amar of Yudam Shmuel. This. Amar of Yudam Shmuel, it says of Yudam Shmuel, Arba kosot alalu tzarich sheyeh bahen kedei mezigat kos yafeh. So these 4 cups has to have enough for a kos mezigat yafeh, which means a good cup, which is a revit of the log, right? Which is what we have, a revit. Shitan chai, if you drank it without doing mezigah, which means in the olden days, remember, they used to have wine and they had to dilute it with water. So you drank it the way that it was without any diluting of water, yatsa, you're going to be tzechovah. Shitam v'atachat, if you're going to drink it in one shot, lo ala seder, right, yatsa, also you're going to be tzechovah. Which means if you drank all 4 cups, shelo ala seder, you're going to be tzechovah. Hishkamen levanav livnei meto. But if you didn't drink all the cup you didn't drink the entire cup, but you gave it also to your children and your family members, you're going to be tzechovah. So now the Gemara is going to analyze, right, one by one, every single halakha that we just mentioned now. Okay, shitan chai, if you drank it without diluting it, it's going to be tzechovah, right? Yatsa. Amar Rava, yedei yain yatsa, yedei cherut lo yatsa. You tzechovah the etzem the mitzvah of shtiyat yain, but you weren't tzechovah the cherut. What does that mean? It's not derech cherut to drink wine which is not diluted. So it comes out that you weren't mekayim the mitzvah completely. So you're right. You drank the 4 cups of wine, but you didn't drink it properly. Why? Because it's not proper to drink it that way. Meaning a person that's free man, he's going to drink it diluted, nice. If he drinks it so strong, so concentrated, it's not the same. You understand? So therefore, he wasn't Yitzchak the Cherut. He was Yitzchak the Yain, but not the Cherut. Next, Shetam Vatachat, if he drank them in one shot, Rav says, Yedei Yain Yatza, he was Yitzchak the Yedei Yain, which is the mitzvah of drinking wine on Yom Tov. You're not going to be Yitzchak Arba Kosot. That means if a person came, right, and he drank all 4 cups of wine in one shot, right? Let's say a person, you're going to say, listen, this guy's not religious, or he's thirsty, right? Or the guy's not religious. So you're going to say, listen, anybody's not going to do that. So what do? He comes and he drinks 4 cups of wine straight. He's what? Yeah, in the kiddush, and then right after the kiddush, you drink 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're tzedakah, because that's what it says. Arba kosot lo yetza. You're not tzedakah. The 4 kosot. 4 kosot have to be done ala seder. It has to be done on the seder of what's brought down. So ishkamen livanam livinetu yetza. We said he's going to give it to his children, right, and to his family members. He's going to tzedakah. Amram Nachman bar Yitzchak says of Nachman bar Yitzchak, yeah, vehu, right, the ishte ruba de casa. He says that's going to be if you're going to drink the majority of the cup. Okay? So it says the Gemara, so they're going to ask the following question. Right? These 4 cups, they have to have a revit of wine. Doesn't matter whether it's chai or mazug. You have to have a revit. Echad chadash, right? Ve'echad yashan, whether it's going to be new or old. Okay. So it says like this: Echad chadash ve'echad yashan, whether it's going to be new or old, which means it doesn't matter whether it was new wine or old wine. You're going to be tzedakah. Rabbi Yehuda says you need the ta'am and the mar'eh. You need the appearance and the right and the taste of wine. However, though we always learn the revit. Now you just said right kos yafeh, which is only rova revit yain chai. Okay, so now the question is, what do you need? You need a revit, or you just need a quarter of a revit? So Amri, they said it's both the exact same shiur. What does it mean? You need a full revi'it for every single person. And that's all we need. Every single individual needs one full revi'it. Okay? Fine. Rabbi Yehuda just said that you need, you need the taste and the appearance of wine. Amar Rava says, my time, what's reasoning? The Yehuda, tichtiv al tere yain ki tadam. Right? Do not, it says over here, what does this mean? It says a person should never get drunk, right? And do not go after the good appearance of a good red wine. It says, why not? He says, because the second that a person gets drunk, he loses the bechina, he loses the distinction between knowing what's good and what's bad. So that means you could actually make a person drunk. So that's why red wine. Right? Remember that also on the night of Pesach, red wine. Okay?
Maybe the cheap wine make you drunk more than the better.
Okay. I don't know. We learned in the Braita. Everyone's obligated in these 4 cups. Whether it's men, women, or children. Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda. Why are the children going to start drinking wine? Right? Ella, but rather you're right. For the children, no. Right, Kuftet Amud Aleph 109A1. Right, it says Mechalkim Lahem Krayot. We give them toasted kernels, ve'gozin or walnuts on Erev Pesach, in order that they shouldn't sleep. V'yishalu, and they're going to ask. Right, nowadays what we do is we give them chocolates. So we buy chocolate bars, right, and we give them chocolates. I mean, they'll get like a whole chocolate bar. Imagine, the children are, you don't understand, they're on fire. Yeah. No, that's what you have to do in order that they stay up, and you make sure that they go to sleep on during the day. Yeah. Which one? Yeah, it all depends. Fine. Says the Gemara, Amru alav Rabbi Akiva shemechalek krayo ve'gazin latinukot berev Pesach kadosh yishnu v'yishalu. He says over here, right? What does that mean? Rabbi Akiva used to be mechalek. He used to distribute krayot ve'gazin, right? Toasted kernels and walnuts to the children on Erev Pesach in order that they shouldn't sleep and they should ask the questions. Actually, by the way, I don't remember now where I saw it, but I did see it mefurash written that this year, right, people should sleep on Shabbat afternoon in order to have the strength for the night of the Seder, but just don't sleep saying that you're doing that. You know, sometimes if not, it's like a chana. But you just go to sleep. Don't say anything. Huh? Yeah, you go to sleep, and that way, it's part of the oneg Shabbat, and you're sleeping very well in order that you have,
do every week.
As some people do every week. Not everyone has the luxury of sleeping every week. Okay? Tanya, we learned in a Braita, right? Rabbi Eliezer says, Tanya, we learned in the Braita. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Chotfin matzot belele pesachim b'shvil tinokot shelo yishnu." So it says over here they would grab matzot on the night of Pesach in order that the tinokot should not fall asleep. What does this mean exactly? It says over here, "Achila meruba merdima." Right? So it says over here that if you eat too much, it puts you to sleep. So therefore, there used to be chotfim et matzot miyad tinokot after they eat a little bit, in order that they shouldn't eat too much, and then they're going to fall asleep. That's why, by the way, that's the reason why people are so tired Shabbat afternoon. Somebody once told me, Rabbi, why is it that the chamin, the cholent, knocks me out? What's going on? So you know why? Yeah, because usually when people eat a lot, right, it puts them to sleep. Meaning people, when you eat too much. So that's what you just said here. Achilam ruba, it puts you to sleep. So therefore, people, they come, Friday night, they start eating, or on Shabbat morning, right, eating and drink. No, the drinking on its own already puts you to sleep. Yeah. So what happens though is that a person has to just understand, right, that what happens is that they used to grab the matzot away from the children, because that way they didn't want them to eat too much. So if they're going to eat too much, they're going to fall asleep. So eat a little bit, and then that's it. Yeah, barakah, sasufi. Yeah, don't want anymore.
That might be the reason why Mikey is put in the beginning before.
100%. But if it was at the end, they would be in the middle of their drinks. Fine. So it says over here, Tanya, we also learned on the right. Amru alav Rabbi Akiva. They said on Rabbi Akiva, miyamav lo amar higia et la'amod vet midrash. He never went and told anyone that you guys have to get up and leave the Bet HaMikdash. He never did that. Chutz marve pesachim be'erev Yom Kippurim. Erev Pesach and Erev Kippur. Be'erev Pesach, he used to stop the limudim b'shvil tinokot v'shushnu. He used to stop the limudim, tell everyone, go home, go to sleep. Why? So they don't go to sleep at night time. Ve'erev Yom Kippurim kedei sheyachilu benehem. And Erev Kippur, in order that they should give them to eat to the children and everything, in order that they, before the Tanit. We learned in the Braita, a person is obligated. Yeah, chayav. A person is obligated to come and to be mesameach, right? His children, right, on the regel and shlosha regalim. Shneimar v'samachta bechagecha, right? Tatav micha v'itecha v'decha v'metecha b'mim mesamcham b'yayin, with wine. Rabbi Yehuda says no, that's incorrect. Why? Anashim bara'ui lahem v'nashim bara'ui lahem. Men with what's his purpose, which is what's fitting for them, and women what's fitting for them. Anashim bara'ui lahem b'yayin. Men, they don't wear jewelry. When was the last time you saw a man with a ring, right, or with earrings or things like that? It's not. It's not. You understand? So therefore, what? Men with what? With wine. He says, women b'mai. Tanit of Yosef bevavel b'gdei tzivonin. In Bavel with clothing, right? They used to buy beautiful clothing. But it's, he said, b'gdei pishtan megoatzin, with the linen clothing. So basically, in each place, according to the clothing. We learned in the Braita, Rabbi Yehuda ben Omer, bizman shebet hamikdash kayam en simcha labasar. There was, when the Bet HaMikdash was kayam, the only simcha was with wine, right? With meat, right? With the meat. Why? Because they were eating the meat of the korbanot. Shneimar v'zavachta shalamim v'achat Hashem v'samachta lifnei Hashem Elokecha. V'achshav shebet hamikdash kayam, but now that there's no Bet HaMikdash, en simcha labayayin. It's only going to be with wine. Shneimar v'yayin is samach levav enosh. That the wine will come and will rejoice, will make a person jolly. It will make him happy. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, says Rabbi Yitzchak, Kasta de Muriasa, Dahava Betzipori. This midah that these to sell Murias in the city of Tzipori. How do you translate Murias? Here it says it's just made out of water and salt that they used to put kirve dagim. They used to put like the intestines of fish, which has a lot of shuman. Yeah, how do you translate it in English?
It's fish fats.
Fish fats. Okay, fish fats. Okay, so it says over here, Dava Betzipori, he havat kamin luga de mikdasha. So it was like the log in the Bet HaMikdash. Remember that what we have is a revi'ita log. That means our 86 cc or 150, according to Chazon Ish, is a quarter of a log. So you have to times it by 4. Okay, uba mesha'arin revi'it, and that's how they used to be mesha'ir the revi'it shel Pesach, of the Pesach and the 4 kosot. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Taminata kadmata da'ave b'Tiveria. Tamidata timinata, right, which was, they used to be in the city of Tiveria. This is a certain measure, right? It says, Havat yatira al dar riv'ah. It was more than a revit of the log. Okay? Uva meshan in revit. And that's what they used to use on the 4 kosot of Pesach. So it used to come out that they used to fill up the timinata, right? And then they used to put it into the smaller one, right? So it comes out that they used to, that was the revit. Whatever was left over, that was the revit. So Amar Rav Chasta says, Rav Chasta, revit shel Torah. Do you know that Revi'it is the kamut of the mashk, is the amount of liquid that you need, mina Torah, etzba'ayim al etzba'ayim brum etzba'ayim v'chatzi etzba v'chom etzba, which is basically going to be, right, a kli rabua, which is going to be a square, right, utensil, which is going to be 2 fingers by 2 fingers and the height of 2 fingers, right, v'chatzi etzba v'chom etzba, and it's going to be, 2 fingers and a half and a quarter of a finger, not a quarter, a fifth of a finger. Okay, so it says over here, Revi'it of the nefach of 2 by 2 by 2.7. That's what it says. Okay, so it's 2 by 2 by 2.7. But as it says in the pasuk, what does it mean that you're going to wash your entire flesh, right, in water? What does that mean? You're never allowed to have a chatzitza between you and the water. But mayim b'memikveh. What does it mean, mayim? The memikveh, right? Et kol besaro. What does it mean, et kol besaro? Mayim shekol gufo le. It has to be water which your entire body is able to go into it in one shot. The kamahen, how much water is that? Right? Says kuftet amud bet. Ama lama beru shalom shamot. You need 1 ama squared, right, by 3 amot, right, tall. Okay, that means you need 1 ama by 1 ama and 3 amot tall. Remember, 1 ama is 48 centimeters, half a meter, right? No, because you have 1 amma by 1 amma. You could your length, your thing is that's half a meter. You could be in half a meter. It's small, but you're able to stand in a half a meter, right? And then the depth of 3 meters, the 3 amot, right? Which is basically there's going to be the 1.5 meters. Okay. So they went and they said that how much is it? 40 seah. Nowadays usually it has much more, but that's just the concept of 40 seah. You have in the foot, you have here like a whole bunch of in the drawings and everything of everything. So Amar Ravashi says, Amali Ravin Bar Chinana says Ravin Bar Chinana, even though this is the shiur of the mikveh that we just explained, Shulchan Shel Mikdash, the Shulchan in the Bet HaMikdash, Shel Prakim Hava, right, was made out of different chalakim, right, which they used to put together. These Salkatai, but if you're going to tell me now, Haduk Hava Miadek, that the Shulchan was mehudak, everything together, and you couldn't detach it. So then how would they do the tevilah, right? Because of the such a place of an amanama, which means that they would be able to detach the parts and put it to do tevilah in it. You understand? They were able to do tevilah that way. Okay, so how would they do that? So he comes and he says, as follows. He says, how would you do tevilah on it? So says the Gemara, my kusha, what's the question? Maybe they used to do it in the yam of which Shlomo Melech did, which was huge. Meaning it wasn't in a small mikveh of 1 by 1 and 3 amot, right? 1 amah squared and 3 amot, because if not, then you can't put the shulchan inside. Maybe you put it in a huge mikveh of the Shlomo Melech, right? The Tanya Ruchia, but Ruchia taught, yam she'asa Shlomo machzik 150 mikveh tara. The yam that Shlomo Melech made is able to fit 150 mikvahot, which means it was huge. So if it was huge, for sure you could keep it. Here it says that there, Shlomo Melech built a yam, minechoshet, out of copper, right? He says in the Azara of the Bet HaMikdash. Okay. As the Gemara, so what happened was that the yam of Shlomo Melech actually was able to actually fit so many. Okay, so now we're in the next part. You cannot have less than 4 kosot of wine. So says the Gemara, now we're going to get into the entire concept. What 4 is a zug? You know the concept of zugot? Zugot is a couple, right? Couples, right, are dangerous. You know that? Okay. What does that mean? Whenever you do 2 by 2s, it's dangerous. You should always do odd numbers, not even, right? That's why you always eat not in zugot. So the Gemara is going to ask, how would the rabbis institute something which is dangerous? 4 cups of wine is dangerous. They should even do 3 or 5. That Tanya we learned in the Braita, right? Some people they do 5 all the time, right? And some people do the 5, which is even 10. Lo yochal adam trei velo yishte trei velo yikaneach trei velo yaset zachav trei. A person says a Braita mefurash. A person should not eat 2, should not drink 2, should not wipe himself, right? 2 twice, right? Velo yaset zachav 2. Nothing doing 2, meaning because of the mazikin, which means don't do things in 2s, 2 by 2s. Which one? Lechem mishneh. Okay, well that's the lechem mishneh. You're not obligated to eat it. You're just obligated to put the lechem mishneh there. You're not obligated to eat 2. You're just obligated to put it there, right? So says the Gemara, and says the Gemara. Rav Nachman Amar says the pasuk. No, leil shimurim. What does it mean leil shimurim? You don't need protection on the night of Pesach. Special night. Leila mishumar and v'min zakin. Right? It's a night which is that's the reason why there was a machloket on That's the reason why a lot of people, they sleep with the doors open, right? Unlocked. There's a lot of things. Leil Shimurim, right? Leil Shimurim, right? Also, if it comes out on Friday night, you wouldn't do the Men Sheva, right? The Yom HaShishi, right? How do you call it? The Beracha Men Sheva, on the Friday night Chazara.
That's why you would send them to sleep like this.
Well, we're saying the main show
Because the Mazikin, of course. They used to say the Beracha Men Sheva because people used to be in the fields. If somebody would come late, right? And therefore what would happen is that if people would go home, they would leave him in Sakana. So they would say Beracha Men Sheva, and then everyone would go back. Which one? Like Yiruanenu. So what happened was that's the reason why. But he says, but on the night of Pesach, you don't need Shemitah. So therefore they wouldn't say it on the night of Pesach. Right?
So we can pray in the house, Rabbi.
Which one? On the night, well, put it this way: you don't lack the Beracha Men Sheva there, at least. You understand? There you don't lack the Beracha Men Sheva, but you understand? Yeah, but you still have the Kiddusha Bet Knesset. What can you do? That you can get out of. Kiddusha is Kiddusha. Rava says, Kol shel bracha mitzaref letova ve'eno mitzaref l'ra. He wants to say no. The kosa shlishi, which is basically the kosa bikat hamazon, is mitzaref to the other cups letova, and it's not going to be mitzaref l'ra'ah. What does that mean exactly? Here it says that if it's according to the night of the seder, you already drank 2 cups, but then you have the kosa bracha, which is basically after the kosa revi. So the kosa bikat hamazon is not mitzaref. So since it's not mitzaref, you're not drinking 4, you're drinking like 3. That means even though you are drinking 4 cups, it's not mitzaref to zugot to become 2 and 2. It's like a separate entity. Okay, that's his answer. Ravina comes and he wants to answer another answer. Arba kasa kaseta kinu rabanan derech cherut. So the rabbis came and they instituted 4 cups derech cherut. Kol chav v'chad mitzvah be'apen shehu. Each one is a different mitzvah in itself. Okay, and then that's it. That's the